Hi everyone, my name is Eva. I'm an executive wellness consultant. And today I have four items on the agenda for you today. First of all, I'm going to start off with some different recommendations for spices. And then I'll move along and sharing 3 or 4 different books that I forgot to mention in my previous video. Book recommendations. And then I will be sharing a story from the Bible from the illustrated, it's called Illustrated, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the name of it. Oh, it's the Illustrated Bible Story by Story. And so I'll be sharing a story from the Bible. And I will also be praying a whole rosary. So that's the agenda for today. And we're going to start off with some of these spices that I found. Typically, this is how I roll. I get inspired about a couple hours before I record. I open up these books and whatever pops up is what I'm sharing for the day. I think it's an interesting way of sharing information since I would have planned to share everything that's on here for you. But I think for the day, I feel like it's fun for me, fun for you, because it's kind of like the luck of the day of items that I'm sharing with you. So it unfolds the day of for you. Okay, so today is January 15th. So we're halfway through the first month of the year, 2026. Okay. There's actually 4 different spices that I found just now looking at this because I get drawn in and then I find these different fun spices. So this is the first one that I found. This is hawthorn. You can't really see it straight because the camera flips it, but this is what it looks like. It looks like the regular plant that you see during Christmas. I thought it was appropriate because it's very close to where the other spices are that I was going to share with you. And I think it might be of use to somebody. So it's called the hawthorn. It's called the hawthorn. In herbalism, the berries and flowering tops of the common hawthorn tree are used to strengthen the heart. I think that's really beautiful because the theme for today is love. And I saw that this was red and, I felt like I was drawn to share this with you. Hawthorn's name comes from Greek words meaning hard and sharp, hence the sharpness, I guess, of the leaves that come with it. And its properties is it strengthens the heart, lowers blood pressure, and relaxes arteries. Its uses is may be useful for heart failure or irregular heartbeat. Hawthorn berries can be used in a decoration for a sore throat. says take the nervine herbs such as laverine and linden for anxiety and palpitations. So this is a recipe here. It says pick the following shoots, wash dry and pack into a large jar, cover with brandy and leave in a cool place for 2 weeks. Strain off the liquid, bottle and label. Take 2 dessert spoons daily. That's what it says to do. Then we have bergamot. And this is what it looks like right there. It says the bergamot tree was originally cultivated in Italy, where the fruit has a history of use in folk medicine. The refreshing essential oil is expressed from the peel of the fruit, which resembles a small yellow orange when it is ripe. Outside Italy, bergamot is perhaps best known as an ingredient in Earl Grey teas and eau de cologne. So yes, this fragrance is often found in fragrances. I know that I've found it on the back of Tom Ford's fragrances, perfumes. So it's quite, it's used often in fragrances. Let's see. And so its properties are antidepressant, antiviral, and repels insects. Its uses is joyous and uplifting. Bergamot is a powerful antidepressant, used for acne, boils, oily skin, eczema, psoriasis cuts, and insect bites. And then it gives a small recipe at the bottom. It's also good for cysts. If you might have cysts, use as a wash for cysts. Yes. It says add 3 drops of bergamot, 3 drops of lavender, 3 drops noali, and that's NIAOULI, to a warm bath and soak for at least 10 minutes, or fill a bowl that is big enough to sit in with lukewarm water and add 1 drop of each oil. Agitate the water thoroughly with your hands to dispense the oil. So this could help you. And then I had one other one here. Serrato is what it's called. And this is what it looks like. That's spelled CERATO, CERA, and then T as in Tom, O. And that is a small shrub with bright blue flowers that is often grown in gardens. Serrato originated in China and the Himalayas. Serrato is the only Bach flower remedy to be made from a cultivated plant. Its properties gives confidence and encourages trust in intuition. This is why I wanted to share. I thought it'd be nice to share something that I found here that could encourage trust and intuition. And it gives confidence. which is also really nice. Serato is for those who lack trust in their own abilities and judgment. People who need Serato are intelligent and curious, but constantly seek the advice and approval of other people. They may join cults or take up fads. This is what it says. I'm just reading it off to you. Serato helps us to listen to advice from within, restores confidence, and strengthens our trust in ourselves to follow our path, even if it runs contrary to the expectations of others. It says notes and dosages. Blue Serato flowers grow on a species of hardy Chinese shrub cultivated as a garden plant. Use the sun so it says use the sun method to prepare. Tip on page 56, and that is typically where you take the herb and you boil it in water for 30 minutes, and then you remove it from the water and you drink it like tea. That's what's recommended. Okay, so I think that's all I had for spices. We're going to move right along to book recommendations. So these are some books that I didn't have the opportunity to share with you last time. I think we just ran out of time or just forgot to share them with you, but I thought it would be worth it to share them with you. What is the first one? I want to think about what order I want to go in. So I'll share this one first. This is the Best Year Journal. I've had this for quite a while, actually, but I thought I'd bring it out again. I was able to clean up and found several books recently, so I'm going to start using them again. And this is good for, I have it here, just a description of what it is. So I'm going to try to hold it up so that I'm not looking down while I'm reading this. The Intelligent Change Best Journal book is a guided journal designed for annual reflection and goal setting, focusing on areas like gratitude, self-growth, health and career, featuring sections for yearly vision, monthly, weekly reviews, action plans, and positive prompts to help you achieve your best year through structured, mindful planning and reflection on past lessons. And I'm gonna read how it works so that it makes sense. It guides you through a process of understanding what makes you happy, learning from the past experiences, and creating a mindful plan to achieve your best year by focusing on consistent, small actions and positive reflections. So this is coming to mind right now. I saw an interview by one of the founders of this company called The Intelligent Change. And the reason why I gravitated and purchased this book is because, let me see if I can find the name of this founder. Her name is Mimi Icon. And I saw her in an interview on, I think it's called The Real London. And she told her story about how she lived in a different country. I don't know if it was somewhere in Eastern Europe. And she mentioned that it was a really hard time for her and she moved to the States. and it really resonated with me, and that's why I gravitated to investing in this book. And I also purchased their other book called The Productivity Journal. And it's right here. This is the other book that she and her former partner, Alex Icon, created. And I thought it's, really intelligent the way that they've created these journals. So you may want to look into that. And you may want to look into that interview because it's profound, and it'll kind of really struck a chord with you if you pay attention to what she says. And it's really very inspiring. Okay, so moving right along to the other book. So the other book here that I found while I was at the Harvard Coop is where I was. And this is another book that I found there by John P. Cutter. And it's called A Sense of Urgency. Is a business book that argues a true sense of urgency is the crucial first step for any successful organizational change, combating the natural tendency toward complacency. Published in 2008, it explains how leaders can create and sustain this feeling by going beyond just the business case to make people feel the need for change, using actions, not just words, to drive transformation in a fast-moving world. So I was really impressed by this because I think a sense of urgency is important. But at the same time, it's also important to move strategically in an intelligent way, not reckless or without thinking twice about what you're actually putting into action. It says here why it's important. It's a follow-up to his bestseller, Leading Change, focusing specifically on the critical first step of creating urgency, which argues is often missing. It's a guide for leaders in a turbulent world, providing tools to help organizations adapt and reinvent themselves quickly in the face of constant change. It says here, key themes are combating complacency. Cotter points that complacency is an organization's biggest threat, and it's the default state if leadership does nothing. Second bullet is beyond the business case. The book teaches how to move past logical arguments to overcome fear and anger, making the need for change visceral. Bullet number 3, action-oriented. It emphasizes that leaders must act urgently to show others the way, not just talk about it. Bullet number 4, sustaining momentum. It provides strategies for keeping the sense of urgency alive even after initial success. So I would say this is an important book, and it might benefit you from reading it. And then finally, I have a couple more books, and I wanted to share this fun story, actually. I'll share it now just because it came to mind. Okay, so I know I mentioned this book last week. This is the Catechism of the Catholic Church. This is a book that actually has been recommended by other influencers, which has a lot of valid information. And if there are things that you are confused about, I would actually go on to St. Paul's Center YouTube channel is what I've been watching recently. He seems to me like a businessman, and he said he was a Calvinist at one point, and he converted to being a Catholic. The Catholic religion, I feel, has a lot of evidence, and which is why there's such a huge conversion to that religion. There's a lot of biblical evidence, and so people are seeing this more and more and realizing it, reading things on their own, and then having these epiphanies. And then my mom actually, because I've been getting more interested in the Rosary and the Bible and asking her questions, she bought me this book in Spanish. So it's the same exact book, but only in Spanish. And I wanted to share that when I purchased this book on Saturday, she gave me this book on Monday. So I thought it was a fun coincidence that she gave me the same book, only in Spanish. What else? Okay. Maybe we'll end with this one because this is important. I like both books though. We'll go with this one first. Okay, this is called Braiding Sweetgrass. And I've heard of other big influence mention this book. They mentioned that this is a book. This is like a love letter written to Mother Earth. And it's called Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. That's spelled Kimmerer. And it says, braiding sweetgrass is indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teachings of plant by Robin Wall Kimmerer is a book that weaves together botany, indigenous wisdom, and personal narrative to explore humanity's relationship with the natural world, emphasizing reciprocity, gratitude, ecological consciousness. Kimmerer is a botanist and a member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. Uses her dual perspective to argue that a deeper, more respectful relationship with the earth is possible by learning from plants as teachers and embracing a gift economy of giving and receiving. It's a structure and style. The book is a collection of essays that braid together personal stories, scientific explanations, and indigenous teachings. Bullet number 2, it is praised for its poetic and accessible writing, making complex ecological and cultural ideas understandable and moving. That's a really nice bullet. I'm going to have to read it again. It is praised for its poetic and accessible writing, meaning that anyone can really comprehend what it says, making complex ecological and cultural ideas understandable and moving. The third bullet is, it says, part of the structure and style, it says, a young adult adaptation is also available featuring added educational elements like reflection, questions, and illustrations. I'm going to focus on this last bullet here that says healing. It's called Healing. The book serves as a pharmacopoeia of healing stories to mend the broken relationship between humans and the earth, offering hope and a path toward ecological restoration. I think that's really important. Okay. Oh, lastly, we have this book here. It's called Feeling Good Together, The Secret to Making Troubled Relationships Work by David D. Burns. Feeling Good Together, The Secret to Making Troubled Relationships Work Together by David D. Burns. And he's Dr. David D. Burns, because he's an MD. I've had this for a while and read it a long time ago, and I'm happy to be reading it again. And I think it's useful for anyone trying to improve relationships, which is fundamental when you want to have longevity and health in your life. It's important to have relationships of all sorts with all different types of people, so that you're able to learn from people and they're able to learn from you. And then, I found this really interesting story recently about Richard Branson. I've been a fan of his for ever since I could remember doing research. Maybe 15 years or more. And he's such an interesting person. He has this disability, but he's been able to start over, I guess the number is 400 companies in his lifetime. And he started, I think, in the 70s sometime. And he's been a very successful entrepreneur. And what's interesting about him is he does things in a big way, and he tries to look for problems that people haven't had an opportunity to solve. And he's very innovative, and I could really resonate with his personality, because I noticed that they mention in the story that I found where he tries to make moments better or more fun or more interesting. And I find myself doing that at family gatherings, where if I see my nieces or nephews are sitting around bored to death, I try to make the moment happier or more interesting by doing mountain climbers on the ground with them, or finding fun things to do with them, because it's important to see how you can make yourself more useful for people, and try to keep your energy high, especially for children, because they need that. They'll always remember moments during their childhood, and so you want to keep your spirits high and happy for them. And that's what I always try doing. So that's another book recommendation. And now getting back to the agenda, what we were supposed to be doing here. Item number 3 on the agenda is the Bible story. So again, this story I found by simply opening my Bible and finding this story for you. And I did find a coincidence on here that I'll mention about later. Yeah, it's towards the end of the story, so I won't spoil it for you, but I will be reading this for you because I think that's the only way of sharing the story. This is Lazarus and raised from the dead. I'm going to actually look up the pronunciation of this name because I don't want to mispronounce it. Lazarus. So it's called Lazarus. I knew that, but I don't know why I was pronouncing it incorrectly just now. Lazarus raised from the dead. And I'll show you a really fun picture of this. By the way, I wanted to mention that this Bible is now at Barnes & Noble, and I was so excited to see that they have 3 copies. I'm so close to buying another copy, but we'll see how that goes. I might just buy it right away. It's at Barnes & Noble. They have 3 copies, and I'm hoping that it's flying off the shelves because it's such a fun Bible that's told story by story, but there's just so much richness in this book with artifacts. It gives you context on what is going on during this time period with fashion, with what is absolutely happening during this time and what the thinking is also, so that you're not completely confused on what's going on. So like, let's say for example, this is Lazarus raised, and then a few pages later, or I would say 6 or 10 pages later, there's this Herod's temple that they mention, and this is the temple that they show. And so they give a whole history on who Herod is, because I have no idea who Herod is, and I haven't read the Bible in depth, and I'm so excited to see this because there is so much information on here that you don't have to dig through the Bible itself, where everyone knows is not as simple to read because they're in small columns. Although past generations, they will say that I've heard an older woman mention that it is like reading an instruction manual for life, similar to having an instruction manual for your car. This is an instruction manual for your life. But the Bible is so much more than that. I was talking to a pastor, actually coincidentally, at this Barnes & Noble. He was a Christian pastor, such a sweet man, and he was helping me find a Bible that I could take notes in. Actually, he mentioned the same thing that I was thinking, which mentions it in this book, where the Bible has so much. It has, songs for depending on what mood you're in, if you're angry or if you're sad, or there are verses and songs that you can read in the Bible, and there's lots of different elements. There's really scary stories that the Bible tells. There's something for someone, any type of person, for this book. For the Bible. If that's what you're looking for, something interesting, I would read the Bible. And not only that, it brings peace in your soul. And when you're reflecting that onto people will pick that up and reflect it back to you. So I would recommend buying this book. And it's the Illustrated Bible story by story. And this is the painting that I flipped to when I found the story. This is Jesus here. And this is Lazarus. here. And I believe this is Mary and Martha together here kneeling in front of Jesus. And I'll read you what it says here. This is Lazarus arisen. In FARA, I don't know what that stands for. Angelicos, the resurrection of Lazarus, 1450. Jesus summons Lazarus from the tomb as the apostles Mary and Martha look on. The figures with herbs are venerated as saints by most Christian denominations. I was debating whether or not to read just the beginning and the end, but I feel like you need the middle to make sense of it. I might just read some of it, and if it gets to be too much, then I'll tell you the background on the story. Lazarus is a friend of Mary and Martha and a friend of Jesus. And for the first time, actually, I found here, there's a verse here that it says it's the shortest verse. Jesus wept, and that's John 11:35. I haven't heard of Jesus weeping yet, ever in the Bible, and this is the first time I encountered it. But it says that it shows his way of being human or having humanity. And, being able to empathize with people. Okay, so John's gospel tells the story of Jesus being called to the aid of his sick friend, Lazarus. But delaying until Lazarus has died. This gives Jesus the opportunity to prove that he is the Messiah with power over life and death. Jesus' friend Lazarus and his sisters, Mary and Martha, lived in the village of Bethany in Judea. Lazarus became seriously ill, and the sisters sent word to Jesus telling him that his friend was sick. When the news reached Jesus, he said that Lazarus' illness would not end in death. Rather, and quote, "It is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it." That's John 11:4. Walking into the light. Jesus loved his friends. So 2 days later, he called his disciples to follow him back to Judea. The disciples were worried, however, pointing out that not long before the Jews there had tried to stone him, Jesus reassured them by saying that anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light. That's 11:9:10. And this is actually a little bit, it drew me back to this time that I was spending time with an executive that I was working with. And he's a marathon runner, and he's, I think, in his 70s or 60s. And he mentioned that, well, actually, during that time, I actually saw a gentleman fall on an asphalt on a sidewalk the evening before I had this meeting with this executive. And I was so scared that I did pull over and ask the gentleman if he was fine. And coincidentally, actually, there was a guy from one of my, a classmate from French class in high school who I recognized and I remembered his name, but right now I don't know if I remember his name. And it was so funny because he's a nurse at the Newton Wellesley Hospital, and I don't know if he would have stopped if I would have, but I stopped because it was dark at nighttime, and we were in traffic, and as I looked to my left, this gentleman falls and hits his head, and he gashes his head at his eyebrow. And when I see that, I just pull over and I run over at him. And there was a woman that got to him sooner than me, but I don't know if she spoke English, but I was able to talk to him too, and she was fine. But he looked at me for what I remember is I think it was either green or blue eyes. He looked intensely into my eyes for trust, because he said, "How bad is it?" And we flashed a light on his head, on his face, and I remember the intensity of his eyes looking to me for trust. And I honestly told him, I was like, it looks like you could, you may want to have it looked at, because it was a gash, and it looked like he could have gotten maybe 1 or 2 stitches to kind of close up the gash. But it happened so quickly. I looked to my left as I was in traffic, and this gentleman was running in the dark, and he falls over, and then so I pull over, I run to him, and at the same time another gentleman comes over, and that's my classmate from French class. Oh yes, I remember his name. He looks at me because I said his name. I said, Ulrich? And then the guy who had fallen, he looked at us like it was like planned or something, but it was weird because it happened. It was a coincidence. And I guess there is no such things as coincidence. His name is Ulrich. And he's the sweetest person I've met, and I think he was from Haiti. He wouldn't really speak too much in French class because he spoke French. And I think he was just taking it for fun. And I remembered him from French class, and he told the guy that got hurt, he's like, "Do you want to come with me, because I can take you to Newton Wellesley Hospital?" And I don't know how they figured it out, but I think the runner, ended up leaving with Ulrich, and I offered him to take him too, but he said, "No, I'll just go with this guy who is Ulrich," and Ulrich showed him his badge, which had a picture of his picture, and then identifying that he was a nurse from the Newton Wellesley Hospital. So the following morning, I don't ever know what happens to this guy. I'm sure he was fine. The following morning, I meet with this executive who runs marathons. He runs in the mornings. He says he obviously, and I told him about what had happened the prior night, and he said, "Well, of course you don't run at night, because then you can't see in front of you." And he mentioned it as though like it was obvious. But it was so funny because he's a marathon runner. He's healthy. Although I've noticed in previous generations, they don't know that their joints need to be lubricated, and because he was a little bit stiff, this executive that I supported, and he just walked around really stiff. And as you grow older, you want to make sure that you are helping your joints by moving in ways that are helping to lubricate your joints, and so you're not feeling stiff, and it is important for your joints to, I don't remember the exact terminology for this, but stiffness does occur in the joints when you don't properly stretch them ever so often. And so you may want to incorporate yoga, and maybe even hot yoga, to have your brain and your body remember how to move in a way that it flows and you're not feeling stiff as you get older, and providing you with that longevity as you get older. So I wanted to mention that because it makes me think of this small quote here. And I think it's important that I share these stories with you because they're such coincidences that I can't keep to myself, that I want to keep sharing with you, that God provides for me, that I want to make sure I share this richness with you. And so the quote here again is, anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light, which is true. I mean, in the morning when you wake up, the light is so bright in your room that you have to get blackout curtains, and the lightness will overtake the darkness. It says, it is when the person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light. And again, you can find that in 11, 9, 10 in the book of John. He walked in the daytime of God's light, so had nothing to fear. He went on, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up. The disciples were confused, thinking that he meant Lazarus was simply resting. They suggested that the sleep might be good for the sick man. Then Jesus made tomb, T-O-M-B, for 4 days. Martha came to meet him, saying that if Jesus had arrived earlier, he could have saved her brother. So Lazarus is Martha's brother. Even now, demonstrating complete faith in Jesus, she asserted her faith that God would give him whatever he asked for. Jesus assured her that her brother would rise again. Martha agreed, mistaking his meaning. She told him that she knew Lazarus would indeed rise again in the resurrection at the last day. This had been promised in the Old Testament. Multitudes, quote, multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, Daniel 12:2. But Jesus told her that this was not a hope for the future. I am the resurrection and the life. Quote, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. That's 11:25-26. I believe that wholeheartedly. I'll read it again so that you can hear it. Quote, I am the resurrection and the life. I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. The story goes on to say, he asked if she believed this, and Martha replied that she believed he was the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world. Next paragraph, Jesus moved to tears. So this is the first time that I hear Jesus weeping. I don't know that I've ever heard him cry or weep. It's really interesting because it shows humanity in him, which it has in the past, but even more so now. Martha called to her sister Mary and told her that Jesus had come and was asking for her. Mary went to Jesus and fell weeping at his feet. She too said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping and those around her also crying, he was deeply moved. He asked where they had laid Lazarus, and they urged him to come and see. The Bible records his response in its shortest verse: Jesus wept. That's found in John 11:35. Some of the Jews, seeing this, remarked on how much Jesus must have loved Lazarus, but others were quizzical. Jesus had made a blind man see. Could he not have prevented Lazarus from dying? Lazarus comes back to life. The tomb was a cave with a stone laid across its entrance. When the group arrived there, Jesus told them to take away the stone. Martha objected, fearful of the stench of decay flesh, but Jesus insisted, saying, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" When the stone was removed, Jesus looked up and thanked God for hearing his prayer, not for himself, but for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me. So he's saying this in the Bible. It says, quote, "For the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." End of quote. Then he called out to Lazarus in a loud voice to come out of the tomb. Miraculously, Lazarus emerged from the tomb. His hands and feet were still wrapped with strips of linen, and there was a cloth around his face. I'm actually remembering this from a movie that I've watched, or a documentary, or a movie that I've watched several years ago, which is like, it's really scary for me because I do remember seeing all these movies growing up and not understanding them fully, but now it's all coming together, and I get more context of who is who. And if you haven't seen any of those movies, go out and watch them, because it gives you perspective and it immerses you in the time of where they're at in the Bible. This is beneficial to you for, we don't know what God has in store for each one of us. This lifetime that we're in, and I'm sharing with you right now, is limited, and it's short compared to where we're all going. Where we're all going could feel like eternity. And so I'm reading these things off to you and these stories to keep God's stories alive, but not only to kind of feed you faith for whenever it is that you cross over, that you can call out to God and have faith that he'll be there for you. But again, his intention is to bring together heaven and earth, and to help each one of us through our intuition, and by knowing that he's there. He really is there. It's been proven to me time and time again in the last few years. It's only gotten more intense, and I only found this out a little bit more than 10 years, where it was living like in a 3D, moving through motions, moving from day to day, just very transactional, taking a shower, being mindless about what I'm doing every day, not being self-aware about, oh yes, I can actually take care of myself, and not having to feel despair because I know that God is there. And knowing this now and being more self-aware by meditating through praying the rosary, it gives you perspective on what you should be feeding your brain and your subconscious. You can also do it through meditation and doing yoga work, but I do recommend doing this as a practice via the rosary or praying to God or reading the Bible, so that the transition from where you are now to whenever it is that you cross over, whenever that time may be for any one of us, you'll be prepared and you'll have faith for whatever you may encounter, and you don't have to feel like it will be for eternity, and know that God is there for you. There has been so many NDEs. This is where this is heading to, actually. It's making me think of the near-death experiences that I've shared with you in the past. And this is where it's ending here, this story. But I'm sharing this time and time again so that we can feel prepared for wherever it is that we're going. I'm confident that we can all have a fruitful life here now, depending on all the choices that we make moment by moment. We all have that choice of what's our next move, what's our next choice going to be. Is it going to be towards the light for something positive, or you can take it in the other direction, which I don't recommend. And so that's the purpose of what I'm doing here. Hopefully it's kind of getting through to you. Okay, so this is the last bit of the story. Okay, miraculously, Lazarus emerged from the tomb. His hands and feet, I already read this part to you, just making me think of the grandfather in the Princess Bride. Okay, here it says, and there was a cloth around his face. Jesus said to the astonished group, take off the grave clothes and let him go. Many of the Jews who witnessed this began to believe. So there was a mixture of Jews there, and they started to believe in the word of God and Jesus. And so right there makes me think of these near-death experiences of people who have actually been dead for almost an entire day. And there's this one story that I'm thinking of this daughter who prayed to God, and I think there were several people praying for this gentleman not to die, even though he had complications through his life. Somehow his heart had stopped at some point, and then throughout the day, later in the evening, I think they checked for his pulse again, and they didn't call the family until the following day to let them know that they had found a small pulse. He did have to learn how to become a functioning person again, but he was able to. He wrote a book, actually. And if I can remember the name of that YouTube video, I'll share it in the description box below. But it just goes to show you that God has been creating miracles right here and now, right in front of us for years. And now that it's become more frequent that people are talking about it and making YouTube videos about it and interviewing these people of near-death experiences, it goes to show that God is actually working through us from the other side, wherever that is for where we all go, and then here on earth. So he's never not with us. He is within us. And I'm going to read that quote from the Bible that another influencer actually mentions, which is kind of like the definition of what people should walk around and tell themselves, so that it gives them empowerment and confidence and courage. This is John 4:4, and the Bible describes Jesus' necessary journey through Samaria, a region where's the so the verse is, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And so that's from chapter 1, John, verse 4:4. It says, a Bible verse encouraging believers that the Holy Spirit's power within them is far stronger than any evil or opposition in the world, giving them confidence and victory over spiritual challenges. It's a reminder that God's presence in a believer overcomes worldly forces like false prophets, or I'm not going to say this word because I don't want to call out his name, but you know who I'm talking about, the demon. So again, I'll read it to you again. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world, is from 1 John 4:4. A Bible verse encouraging believers that the Holy Spirit's power within them is far stronger than any evil or opposition in the world, giving them confidence and victory over spiritual challenges. It's a reminder that God's presence in a believer overcomes worldly forces like false prophets, false prophets. To me, that quote also means that God is within you. So it gives to have courage because he's within you. That's what it means to me. Okay, so that is the story from the Bible. And now we're going to move on to praying the rosary. It is 1 hour in, just a little bit over 1 hour. I'm not sure if I want to keep this together and then separate to just reading the rosary. I think that's what I'll do. I'm going to create 2 videos because I think it'll be too overwhelming if I do one whole one with the rosary. So I'm going to stop this video and then I'm going to record a separate video only praying the rosary. And then that way we can set intentions in the separate video. But it'll still be a prayer for today, which is January 15th, 2026. I think that's all I had for you here right now. Stick around for the next video. Most likely we'll be posting both videos together so that you are able to see the second half if you want to stick around for that. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.